Long before the names of Zeus or Jehovah were known, people in ancient Mesopotamia told stories about powerful beings called the Anunnaki. These stories are among the oldest myths in the world. The Sumerians, who lived in the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is today Iraq, believed that the Anunnaki were a group of gods born from the union of the sky and the earth. To them, the Anunnaki were not just single figures, but a family of divine rulers who connected heaven and earth. They were seen as beings who had power over nature, over kingship, and even over the destiny of human beings. The word Anunnaki itself comes from Sumerian and can be translated in different ways. Some say it means offspring of Anu, who was the sky god. Others understand it to mean those who came down from the heavens. Both translations show the same idea. These gods were children of the sky and earth, and they were seen as beings from above who shaped the world below. The Anunnaki appeared in many Sumerian myths, and later cultures such as the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians kept their stories alive. Because these myths are so old, they are often described as the first written records of gods and creation. The Sumerians wrote their stories on clay tablets using a script called cuneiform. These tablets describe the Anunnaki in different roles. In some stories, they are creators. In others, they are judges who decide the fate of humans after death. In still other stories, they play a part in the order of kingship and society. For example, one myth says that the Anunnaki gave kingship to humans, which meant that rulers were chosen not by chance, but by divine decision. The Sumerians believed their leaders ruled because the gods willed it, and this belief gave structure and meaning to their society. One of the most famous Mesopotamian stories, the Epic of Gilgamesh, also mentions the Anunnaki. In that story, the Anunnaki appear as judges of the underworld who decide what happens to people after they die. This shows that they were not only gods of the heavens, but also had power in the world of the dead. In another creation story, the gods, including some of the Anunnaki, created human beings by mixing clay with the blood of a slain god. According to that myth, humans were created to serve the gods and relieve them of hard labor. This theme, that people exist to serve higher beings, is found in many of the world's oldest religions. The role of the Anunnaki in these stories is important because it shows how humans tried to explain the mysteries of life and death. The Sumerians wanted to understand where people came from, why kings ruled, and what happened after death. They explained these mysteries by telling stories about the Anunnaki. These myths were not just entertainment. They were a way of making sense of the world. The Sumerian stories about the Anunnaki did not stay in Sumer alone. Later cultures in Mesopotamia, such as the Babylonians and the Assyrians, kept many of the same gods, but gave them new names or slightly different roles. For example, in the Babylonian creation story called the Enuma Elish, there are also powerful gods who fight, create humans, and decide the fate of the world. These stories echo the earlier Sumerian ideas about the Anunnaki. The influence did not stop there. Scholars believe that the Hebrew Bible was written in a world where Babylonian culture was strong. The famous story of a great flood in the Bible is very similar to the flood story found in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The idea of God creating humans from dust also seems related to the older Mesopotamian myths where gods shaped humans from clay. The connection does not mean the Bible copied Sumerian myths word for word, but it shows that ideas travel from one culture to another over time. The Greeks, too, told stories of gods like Zeus, Hera, and Hades. These gods, like the Anunnaki, were divided into rulers of the sky, the earth, and the underworld. They interfered in human lives, started wars, and judged souls after death. Whether by influence or coincidence, the structure of the Anunnaki myths looks very similar to the later Greek myths. Because of this, many people say that the Anunnaki shaped the first myths of gods. They were the starting point, or the earliest version, of a pattern that later religions and mythologies would repeat. In the 20th century, the Anunnaki took on a new identity. A writer named Zecharia Sitchin suggested that the Anunnaki were not only gods in stories, but real beings from another planet. He claimed that they came from a hidden 12th planet in our solar system, which he called Nibiru. According to his theory, the Anunnaki came to Earth thousands of years ago to mine gold and other resources. Because they needed help, they supposedly created or genetically altered humans to be their workers. Sitchin's ideas became very popular in the 1970s and beyond. Many people found the idea exciting because it suggested that our gods were actually ancient astronauts. According to this theory, the Anunnaki were aliens who visited Earth, taught humans how to build cities, gave them knowledge, and then left. Some people believe they never fully left, and that they still secretly influence or control the world today. This is where the idea comes from that the Anunnaki still rule in modern times. However, most historians and archaeologists disagree with this view. They point out that the original Sumerian tablets do not mention spaceships, advanced technology, or planets like Nibiru. The idea of aliens was added much later by modern writers. In the tablets, the Anunnaki are described as gods with human-like qualities, not extraterrestrials. While the ancient alien theory makes for entertaining books and television shows, it is not considered true by experts in Mesopotamian history. Still, the popularity of this idea shows how myths continue to evolve. Even today, people are reimagining the Anunnaki as part of a modern story about aliens and hidden rulers. The belief that the Anunnaki still rule today comes partly from fascination with ancient history and partly from modern concerns about power. The Sumerians were one of the first civilizations on Earth. They invented writing, built great cities, created systems of law, and developed knowledge of astronomy and mathematics. To many people, it feels surprising that humans could have achieved so much so long ago. This leads some to believe that they must have had help from outside, perhaps from beings like the Anunnaki. In addition, many people today feel that powerful forces control the world in secret. Governments, corporations, or mysterious groups are often suspected of having hidden influence. It is not a big step from this idea to the belief that ancient beings like the Anunnaki still hold power behind the scenes. By connecting the myths of the past with fears of the present, the story of the Anunnaki continues to live on. When someone says, "Before Zeus or Jehovah, the Anunnaki ruled the stars," born from sky and earth, they shaped the first myths of gods, and some say they still rule today. It is really a poetic way of describing everything I have explained. It means that long before the gods we know from Greek or Hebrew stories, the Sumerians told of the Anunnaki. These beings were said to come from the sky and the earth, and they were part of the earliest written myths about gods. Because their stories were so old, they may have influenced later myths. And because of modern reinterpretations, some people believe these beings are still real and still powerful in our world today. The Anunnaki remind us that humans have always searched for meaning. Thousands of years ago, the Sumerians looked up at the sky and wondered about their place in the universe. They explained their world by telling stories of gods who ruled the heavens and the earth. Later, other cultures told their own stories, but the pattern remained the same. Today, some people retell those ancient stories in the language of science fiction, imagining the Anunnaki as aliens. Whether or not we believe in those modern ideas, the myths of the Anunnaki are important because they show how the first civilizations tried to answer the big questions of life. Where did we come from? Who rules the world? What happens when we die? In simple terms, the story is this. Long before the gods, Zeus or Jehovah, were worshipped, the Sumerians told stories of the Anunnaki. These beings were said to be born from the sky god Anu and the earth goddess Ki. They were powerful and shaped the first myths about creation, kingship, and the afterlife. Later cultures repeated similar themes in their own stories. In modern times, some writers claimed the Anunnaki were not just gods, but aliens who came to Earth. Because of this, many people now believe they still secretly rule the world. The truth is that the Anunnaki were originally part of Sumerian religion, not aliens. Their myths are the earliest known stories of gods, and they influenced later cultures. Whether real or not, their legacy is huge. The Anunnaki show us how the first humans used stories to understand life and to connect heaven and earth. And that is why people still talk about them today, thousands of years after the first clay tablets were written.